fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Hello, Salt Strong Nation. Joe Simons, like diamonds. Pastor Johnny Kelly. Not only are you looking good in the hat, but you have a Pastor Johnny t-shirt on, I noticed.
You had to point it out. I was going to try and cover it up. Yeah, so somebody in my church gave me a shirt that has my name on it, and so it's a very sweet gift. And so I just happened to be wearing it. I was, working around the house and threw it on, and so here I am.
Well,
so
I would.
Anybody wants to know, Johnny, there you go,
Pastor Johnny, right there on the shirt. So I would normally say that, Johnny, that's failing, buddy. You just failed. But this entire podcast is about how never to fail in life, and so it turns out that there's a pretty clear and evident blueprint. And you'd share with me this one verse in the Bible is one of probably one of the most important ones to you personally. And we talked about a little bit offline. It really is. It's kind of a blueprint, a pretty short and simple one on how to never fail in life and how to never feel like a failure. So you got a story behind it?
Yeah, it's funny, it's a blueprint to never fail, or, in the Christian terms, to never sin, to never mess up, to never fall. And let's be really honest, we all screw up and we mess up. The Bible's full of, everybody in the Bible was a screw up. They were a mess up. One of my favorite Bible characters, is Samson. I love, because he looks like me. But I love Samson, but he did crazy stuff. Peter, cut the ear off of a soldier standing in front of Jesus. Samson once fought the enemy by catching a bunch of foxes and throwing them at the enemy. He did all these crazy things. I remember because we all screw up. So often people look at me as a pastor and they'll think that I don't make those kind of mistakes. But I remember being this is a funny story. I was I was probably 19, 20 years old, and I'm driving down the road, and I had at the time I was in a rock and roll band, and I'm driving down the road with one of the guys from the band, and I'm in my 1986 Honda Civic that had a burnt out clutch. It took me a mile to get up to 40 miles an hour, or else it would just slip out of gear. It was horrible. And we're driving through somewhere in the back area of North Tampa, Lutz, Wesley Chapel, somewhere up there, late at night. And you ever just do something dumb and you don't even know why you do it? You make a mistake. And I did that. And I was driving along, and I had a cup, a big gulp that I had finished drinking. It was full of ice, and the car's driving the other direction. I just whipped all this ice at this car for no reason, absolutely no reason. And my friends in the passenger seat starts laughing, and we start driving. All of a sudden, we see the lights turn around, and this guy come flying up on me. And he was driving like a 1960s muscle car that was just mint. And I just whipped ice at it.
Oh no!
And this guy comes flying around, pulls in front of me, stops his car, gets out of his car, and like a mountain of a man gets out of this car. I mean, this guy's like Jason Momoa, gets out, just starts walking towards me, and it was totally my fault. Luckily I got away. But I felt bad. I did the wrong thing. Wait,
what do you mean you got away? We got to hear the rest of the story.
I put it in reverse. In the middle of a road. He had pulled in front of me on a road they were doing construction on, so it had barriers on both sides, and he stopped. So I couldn't go forward at all. So I put it in reverse, and I'm flying backwards, and I turn around and I start going the other way. He jumps in his car, comes flying around to get me, and he is just hauling, trying to catch up to me. And right before he catches up to me, we come up to a stoplight, and it's red. And so I just pull into the other lane. He's coming right up like he's going to hit me. I just pull into the next lane and stop at the stoplight, and he doesn't have time. He just blows through the stoplight, and a cop pulled out and pulled him over.
No way.
If you're listening to this, I apologize. I am so sorry. I was a dumb kid. It was 20 years ago. but we all make mistakes. Like we all do dumb stuff, and so often we sort of let ourselves, I think, off the hook. God will forgive me. This is just what people do. Everybody makes, and everybody does make mistakes. Everybody does. I get it. But there was always a verse in the Bible that sort of messed with my head, and it's in the Bible in 1 Peter chapter 1. It says, "Be holy as I am holy." And other ones say, "Be perfect like I am perfect. Be righteous like I'm righteous." Like be like me. Like be like God. And God's level of holy and righteous, I mean, those are perfect. And so God telling us to be perfect like He is perfect, and the fact is that so often we look at that and we go, well, it's just just a saying, or just this. But actually, if we jump just the next book of the Bible, the 2nd Peter, it lays out a path to do it. And this is, like you said, is literally the most important part of the Bible to me. I read this a few times a week. I pray it all the time. I pray it into my life. Like I want to be I want to be a better person. I don't want to make dumb mistakes anymore. I want to learn from the mistakes I've made. And then beyond that, I just want to be better. I want to be a better, in every way, shape, or form. I want to be a better Christian. I want to be a better pastor. I want to be a better father to my kids, a better husband to my wife. I want to be better. I mean, it's the reason why I joined Salt Strong years ago anyways. I wanted to be a better fisherman. Like I wanted to be better at things. And it really lays out a path to do it. And the first time I read it, it sort of caught me off guard. Like I was like, okay, it's just a bunch of words. But then I started thinking about it, and it breaks down so easy. Easy as far as steps go. Obviously, there's work to be done there. But why don't I just read it to you?
Yeah,
so this is from 2 Peter chapter 1. Verse 3 through 11. It says, "For this," and I'll read it to you and then I'll explain it because it might not make easy explanation. So, "For this very reason, make every effort to add to your faith goodness, and to goodness knowledge, and to knowledge self-control, and to self-control perseverance, and to perseverance godliness, and to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. For if you possess these qualities in increasing measure, they will keep you from being ineffective and unproductive in your knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. But whoever does not have them is nearsighted and blind, forgetting that they have been cleansed from their past sins." And it says, "Therefore, my brothers and sisters, make every effort to confirm your calling election. For if you do these things, you will never stumble, and you will receive a rich welcome into the eternal kingdom of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ." And that was the verse that really caught me off. Like, if I do these things, I will never stumble. And I went, wait a minute, I need to reread what those things were because I didn't catch it. And so the explanation is, I'm going to walk you through it real quick. It won't take long, I promise. It is this. So we heard that list: faith, to goodness, to knowledge, to self-control, to perseverance, to godliness, to brotherly kindness, and to love. So let's go through those because it walks through in order that makes sense. If you want to live a good life, especially a life that honors God, the very first step to that is faith, right? I mean, like, the very first step to anything that you want to be good at or be better at in life, and especially in your, wanting to be a somebody who morally is good and does things, the first step of that is faith. Like, you have to believe in something. If you don't believe in anything, then there's no reason to be good. And so even beyond the whole Christian side of things, just the idea of just being a good person, like, you have to have faith in being good. You have to have faith that there is something better for you, that there is a better life for you. But I'm applying it today to my life as a Christian, that I have to believe. I have to believe that there is a God and that He loves me. That there's a God that created me on purpose. He created me for a purpose and with a purpose in mind. And that I don't know everything about Him. I don't understand everything about Him, but I have to have faith. That's where faith comes in. I don't know everything, but I'm going to believe. So that's the first step. And so it says, add to your faith goodness. And so first step is I believe. And the second one is I'm going to be a good person, right? I mean, that's like, I believe in you, God. I'm going to be good. It's sort of the easy step, right? It's the easy step. But the problem is that goodness can seem subjective, right? I mean, like, the idea of, like, whether what I'm doing is good or bad or not, it's subjective at times. Like, there are things that that the world says is good, that is publicly considered good, that I don't believe is good, that I don't think is healthy. There are things that are good to some people that I don't believe the Bible says are good for me. And so I need to learn that. And so I add to my faith, I believe in you, God, being good. And then the next step is, well, I have to know what good is. And so the next step is add to that goodness knowledge, which is real simple. So I'm gonna have faith to believe. I'm gonna be good, and then in order to be good, I need to have knowledge. I need to know what good is. And so we have the Bible. We have a blueprint that was written for us already. I think so often we're asking for a sign from God for our lives, and He's like, I already gave it to you. It's a book. Like, stop trying to wait for a voice and start looking for a verse. Like, start looking for the things that God has for you right now already. And He lays out real simply like the good things to do. And so we add to our faith being good, and we go, well, I want to be good, I need to have a knowledge. So you read the Bible, you start learning and understanding the things that God says, hey, this is a good idea, this isn't a good idea. Most of it's logical, most of it's stuff that we all understand. Most of us in some way, shape, or form grew up understanding it, because a lot of the stuff that's in there is what would be considered morally good even outside of the world of the church. And yeah, there are things that are specific for God and the Bible in there, obviously, that aren't that, but the vast majority of it is stuff that everybody would consider good. And so add your faith, goodness, knowledge, and then it goes from knowledge into self-control. And so what is that? That's the next step. The next step is self-control. Is knowledge isn't worth anything if you don't put it into practice. I can watch every single video of Luke telling me the right way to cast and do the mangroves, or Tony telling me the best way to sight fish, from a kayak. But unless I actually do it, it's wasted knowledge. I just know it, but it doesn't do any good. There's a lot of people in the world that know a lot about the Bible but don't do any of it. We all know these people. We've all probably been those people at times. And so the next step is self-control. Self-control is taking that knowledge that you know and actually controlling yourself to do the things that you know are right and wrong, to say, I'm going to do these things. And so real simple so far, right? I mean, it makes sense. Like, add your faith, goodness, be good, knowledge, to know what's good, self-control to do the good things. And then the next one is perseverance. And the best way to explain perseverance is this, for me at least, is that self-control is doing the right thing once. Perseverance is when you continually do it. When you don't make it a one-time thing, but when you say, I'm going to continually do the right thing over and over again. So I've got the knowledge, I'm controlling myself, but I'm going to continue to do it. And when you do that, you're persevering. You're doing the right things over and over again. And the coolest thing then is the very next one, which is godliness, which is becoming more like God. Not that you are a God, but you become more like Him because you're acting more like Him, because you're doing the things that He says are right. You're not doing the things He says are wrong, and you're continually doing, you're persevering. And so you've all of a sudden made this move internally to godliness, and meaning you're going to look more and more like Him. You're going to act more and more like Him. You're becoming more and more in His image. And then we step right from that into the very next one, which is, so it goes from, faith, goodness, knowledge, self-control, perseverance, godliness, and then it goes into the last two, which is brotherly kindness and love. And this is where it's really cool, that I believe, is that when we make, and I think this is obvious in anybody's life in any way, when we make an internal change, all those other ones were internal. Like, I'm going to have faith. I'm going to be good. I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to put those things into practice. And that's going to make me more like God. And then all of a sudden, when you start doing all these internal things, that internal change starts showing on the external. And all of a sudden you have brotherly kindness and love. All of a sudden you're exhibiting outside of yourself the characteristics that God has. And it's such a cool thing to see that when we don't, and it's not, and I don't believe this verse is saying that if you don't do all of these things, you're evil. That's not what it's saying. It's saying that when you leave these steps out, that it says right there, but if you don't do these things, then you're nearsighted and blind. You've forgotten what God did for you already, that he already forgave you for the things you did wrong. He already did it. It's already done. He's just waiting for you to forgive yourself, to grab a hold of that forgiveness he's already given you. And so for me, it is one of the coolest steps. And so for me, these are verses that I pray all the time. I read these things all the time, and I ask God every day. I go, God, where do I need work? Do I need more knowledge today? Maybe I need to be a little better at persevering. I have a good knowledge, a good understanding. I can control myself, but I've had a hard time continually doing it. Maybe I need to show more love and brotherly kindness to people around me, being kind. I mean, I think that's a big one for us because we live in a society that loves to be unkind. Don't believe me? Just look at the comment sections to some of these videos. It's just trying to be not kind, and the cool thing is that for me, I get to look through this real simple list, like faith, goodness, knowledge, self-control, perseverance, godliness, brotherly kindness, love, and those are real simple once you know what they mean. Like, okay, do I need more faith today? Am I struggling in believing you right now? Do I need to just work at being good again? Or maybe I'm all the way down at the love part, man. I'm not showing love to people the way I should. I'm not showing it. It's so, I love that love is last there because love is the final goal. I mean, it is the goal. Without it, life dies. I mean, everybody understands this. I mean, we understand that without that love, there is nothing worth living for. That love is the biggest part of that. And I'm not talking about like romantic love. I'm just like love for people, love from people. And I don't want to make the mistake of people thinking that I'm saying that if that God doesn't love you if you mess up. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not even saying that it's possible that you never make a mistake. What I'm saying is that he gave us a blueprint to walk through so that we can try to not, so that we can be better, so that we can be better people. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. One really interesting, as you're going through these, my backstory after the whole cancer thing and just trying to figure out really my purpose in life, like so many of us do on probably a pretty constant basis. And instead of turning to the Bible, which I had read multiple times over the years, I started turning to these self-help, self-improvement books. And I ended up writing one myself called Fishing for Happiness. And that was basically 300 of these self-help, better improvement development books curated into one. And I don't know if you remember the book, but I broke basically the life's purpose into 4 cornerstones. This is eerie when I tell you what they are. So number 1 was faith, right? Which is very top. And this was not from the Bible. This is for me just curating all these 300 of the top self-help books in the world. Number 2 is control, which ties into self-control, right? Number 3 was action, like taking action, which is the perseverance, knowledge, right? Taking action and doing the right thing. And the 4th one, the final one, was love. It's pretty eerie that, this Bible verse basically sums up every self-help and self-improvement book that is out there. I've read hundreds of them literally and have my own. And it was eerie as you were going through that. And I was taking little notes. So
yeah, they all plagiarized the Bible is what happened. Yeah, that's what they did.
It's true. But you're right. God has given us a blueprint, and so many of us who maybe do feel like we're failures. I do constantly. I've got stories like that. I'm not going to incriminate myself like you did. But there's many times in life, even as an adult, you do things. Like for me, a lot of times it's, just losing my temper with my kids, right? Which is the opposite of love. And I feel bad and have to apologize. Yeah. And it's not like I'm, throwing them out glass windows and stuff, but it's losing the temper and it's usually because I had a stressful day or whatever it might be, a million excuses. But to me, that's when I feel like I'm a failure as a dad, and that hurts, right? That to me, like that's one of my just ones that I'm constantly trying to get better at.
And it's innate in us. It's built into us from the very beginning. It's not something that is just like as adults that we experience. It's something that we experience as kids. I was picking up my 4-year-old from daycare a little while back, and he had been struggling at daycare. He'd been getting in trouble a lot, and we talked through everything every day, like, gotta get past this, gotta get better, blah, blah, blah. And one day I picked him up, and he had messed up again, and we start walking back to the car, and I go, buddy, you got to be better. And I didn't yell at him. I didn't make a big mistake there. But what I experienced in that moment was exactly the way a lot of us feel, which was my son, 4 years old. At the time he was 3. He stopped walking in the parking lot and broke down and was just bawling his eyes out. And I said, "What's wrong, buddy? Are you okay?" And he said, "I always mess up. No matter what I do, I always get it wrong. I always mess up." And it's built into us, man. Like from the very beginning, it broke my heart. Like I literally like immediately picked him up and took him to Dairy Queen. It was like, "All right, buddy, you're okay. You're a good kid," because he's a great kid. Yeah, he's rambunctious and he gets in trouble at school some, but whatever, man. I'm not, I did too. But built into him from the very beginning, built into us is this desire to be better. And there's also built into us the feeling that we are failing. Because we're born broken. We're born messed up. And this is the path. These are the steps that God got us, that he gives us this blueprint so that we don't have to be broken anymore. That we can live a better life. We can be better. And like you said, even if you're not on the whole God tip and you don't want to listen to that, but you've made it through to this point, even applying this just in your life is going to make you a better person. But I believe firmly that in order to get past and get better the right way, it happens when we accept Jesus in our hearts, we accept God into our lives, and we start following his path that he's laid out for us, that we add to the faith, goodness. I remember just sitting there and just looking at my son and him just crying uncontrollably. And he's like, "I always mess up. No matter what I do, I always mess up. I can't do it. I can't do it." And it just broke my heart. But how often have I, as an adult, felt exactly the same way? Like I've sat there going, "Man, I can't do this. Like I screw up." And we all do it, man. And it's built into us. But God gave us a path, man.
So how does this, the path seems pretty clear, but that doesn't necessarily answer the emotions, right? And the thoughts that you're having when you do fail, because we all do, right? We've all, whether it be a screw up or we lost our job, and maybe we didn't do anything wrong. We just lost our job. And we've talked in the past that, that God has a plan. God doesn't make mistakes, that everything happens for a purpose. But still, to me, like, all right, I still feel like a failure. How do you get past that?
Yeah. I think the biggest part of that is just understanding, having a knowledge and an understanding that you messing up doesn't negate the plan God has for your life. It doesn't change it. It's still there. The whole Bible's full of, absolute messes. You look at King David, like, the guy, David and Goliath. King David, he murdered a man so that he could sleep with the dude's wife. Like, that's in the Bible. Like, he was a massive failure, yet the Bible calls him a man after God's own heart. Why? Because he understood something. Yes, and he repented. He said, "I was wrong. I screwed up." And he did, and he took the punishment that he had to for that action. But he also understood something, that just because you fail doesn't negate your life. I think for my son Linus, he felt in that moment that failure negated him as a person. That we attach the fact that we fail to our self-worth. And we have to understand something, that your failures are not a part of your self-worth. They just aren't. Like, God loves you when you're full of mistakes, and he loves you when you're perfect, when you're doing things right. He does. He loves you. And that your self-worth is not based on how good or bad you are. Your self-worth is based on what God thinks of you. I think the biggest way to get past it is to stop looking at yourself the way you see yourself, and start looking at yourself the way God sees you. He sees you as his son or his daughter that he loves completely, mistakes and all. The other thing we almost talked about today ties right into that. Maybe that's what we'll do for next week. But the fact is that he loves you completely just the way you are. And the fact that you make mistakes, he doesn't want you to get better because he thinks you're evil. He wants you to get better because he wants you to have a better life. It's not because he's disappointed in you that he wants you to get better. It's not why. It's not that. He loves you completely. My sons can make giant mistakes, and I can get disappointed or sad in their actions at that moment. But are they disappointing me as people? No. I love them completely, wholeheartedly, in the midst of their mistakes. And in the same way, we have to start being able to look at ourselves the way God looks at us, that he made you on purpose, for a purpose, with a purpose, and he loves you completely just the way you are and wants to see you be better. That's all. He wants you to live a better life.
Dude, powerful, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I see you've got kids behind you, and I can hear
they're
mine
running all around, and I got dogs running over here. Man, it's crazy. I decided to be outside today. It's beautiful out.
No, I love it. And I can hear mine like jingling the lock on the door. So unless you have any other cool stories in this, we're going to call it. And as promised, start making some of these Unchurched episodes a little bit shorter.
Yeah, there you go. No, I love it, man. I appreciate it, and I'm excited. If you guys have questions or thoughts, or you just want somebody to pray with you or talk with you, man, I'd love to be able to help anytime. You can email me at Johnny, Johnny, Johnny at discoverfamilychurch.com, or come out to church on any Sunday if you're in Central Florida or in Lakeland. discoverfamilychurch.com. We'd love to have you.
And new venue too, right?
New venue. We're in our new building. We moved into the new building about a month ago, and it is going so well. It's been really, really cool. We're growing and seeing some really cool stuff happen, and so we'd love to have you come check it out. We're right in front of the Lakeland Square Mall. Easy to get to.
Yeah, love it. And on that, for all of you still listening here, do say some prayers for us. I feel like we have found a pretty ideal property for this kind of beginning stages of this theme park, if you will, this fishing theme park. And two, one of the things we're going to be launching here very soon is a book that I wrote. The next book, not a self-help book, but one about my little brother Daniel, who was born with cerebral palsy, and it's a fictional tale, but based on a lot of things that have happened in his life. This part, of course, did not happen, where he discovers an underground world and discovers that he's the only one that can actually save the world, has to conquer his biggest fears and self-doubts about himself to basically beat the bad guy. So it's a good book. And I mentioned that because a big portion of all the profits are going to go towards this property. So we will be asking for your help on that. And I think if anyone who does read it, especially teenagers, it is going to change your entire perspective on yourself, on certainly kids with disabilities, and it's a heartwarming, tear-jerking, really good story. So it's called The Chair.
I can't wait to read it, man. It's going to be good.
It'll be out soon. So other than that, please subscribe, share this podcast. And if you want to see all the past Unchurched episodes, we made it super simple. It's all at saltstrong.com/unchurched. You'll see all of them. I believe this is like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Flying by. And we'll be praying for you. Hopefully by the next time we do this, your house will have, mostly sold. I know it doesn't happen overnight, but at least a good offer. So
yeah, we're waiting. Have open house tomorrow, man. It's going to be good.
Yeah, baby. All right, guys. Thank you all. We out. Peace.
Peace.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water if there was a way. It's been said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today. For he's the reason why we are this way. And he put fishing in our soul.